All right, part two of the Simmons Russillo Sunday night extravaganza. I'm glad we waited for the end of Grizzlies Jazz. That turned out to be a really good game, intriguing storyline. Might as well start there. It is now 9:18 PT, so we're past midnight on the East Coast. We've just watched 8 basketball games, but the Grizzlies kind of handed it to the Jazz. Now, obviously, no Mitchell, but I went into that game thinking, man, emotional Friday night game over the Warriors. They're not going to have a lot left in the tank. Cross this one off. Game 2, they'll rally. No, they came out throwing haymakers, and Ja looked great. And do you think they can win this series?
If Utah's going to let Ja and Dillon Brooks get to wherever they want, then yeah, Memphis can win. I mean, of all the things, like you think of like major themes, okay, what do you think of this game? The number one that stands out, and there's a lot of important stuff here, but Ja got as deep as he wanted to every single time. And then Brooks in the third quarter did whatever he wanted. And you just keep watching it, and you're like, okay, when is this going to stop? And with Ja, it's so tough because he's going to get by you if he wants to get by you. And then once he's in the middle, in that kind of like, inside the paint 2-point range, he's got such lift that's quick that you're kind of just waiting for him, and there's no way you can match his movement. Like once he's decided he's going to do what he's going to do, you're already late. And it's devastating when it's working. And, for a Utah team that we've always liked defensively, I thought that was pretty poor effort from them.
Yeah, it's funny. You think like a week ago, Ja sucked in that Warriors game. They left him wide open. He missed a bunch of threes. His rookie cards plunged. And
they did? Is that true?
Oh, yeah. This is a whole thing. In the Sports Cards Nonsense podcast, Gio, he says the overreactions up and down with the playoffs are nuts. So right now, like Trae Young and Ja Morant are the two hottest cards. A week ago, Ja was free-falling because he sucked in that Warriors game. And in a week, he salvaged it. And the thing that makes him special, you talking about like his floaters and stuff, and he has the two versions of it, right? He just has a traditional floater, which Trae Young has as well. But then he has that move where he goes left, and then he just does that quick, crazy spin, and he's just completely in control and the perfect shooting thing. And the defender's like still playing him like he's going to the left. And by the time they know, all of a sudden he's shooting it. As you said, he got wherever he wanted. And Brooks, I know Brooks is Verno. We've always talked about him. He's definitely a frustrating Grizzly to the diehard Grizzlies fans because when he's good, he's really good. But he can also be the guy who's like, I got this. And meanwhile, he's like 6 for 22. He's a really unique player because he's a guy like in a playoff series. I kind of want him out there. And he's another 90-10 guy, right? The 10%. He'll take the 3. Maybe he should take every once in a while, but he plays so freaking hard. He's almost like a hockey player. He's like a hockey player in a hockey series where it's just like he's knocking dudes over. He's just in the middle of everything. And I like this team. I liked them after Friday night. I thought that was a really, really impressive win to do that in Golden State against Steph, especially when Golden State started hitting them back. They fought it off. They regrouped. This team's good. They're young, but they're really, really talented. And I think Utah should be scared.
Yeah, the Dillon Brooks thing is pretty fascinating because if you look at it when it's right, you nailed it because he's tough, right? There's no doubt in his mind the entire time. And discovering or trying to figure out exactly like what you want out of every player, like how confident do I want you to be? Well, I want you to be more confident than you should be, but I don't want you so confident that then you're taking away from everything else that's happening. Like Jordan Clarkson, who has been terrific for Utah this year, you saw in those moments tonight where it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to have to score because we're down. And you're like, yeah, but now you're not really doing anything. Like the whole reason we like Utah is because of this team that a bunch of guys initiating the offense, moving the ball around, and they're 7 of 35 from threes, and guys are just bombing away, and they don't even look like the offense that we fell in love with is strong, but a team that had the best record in the NBA. Like I know the reaction is big, Utah sucks, and be like, okay, but they didn't suck. Okay, they didn't suck, and to see them struggle like this offensively, although they made a late run. And then to see a guy like Brooks, who's just like, I don't care who you guys are. I don't care. Like, I don't care. And everything was going in. But if I'm Utah today or going into tomorrow and looking at the film of this and I'd be like, hey, do you guys want to defend anybody? And I know Rudy fouled out, but Rudy was in there for a lot of it too. And I think the scariest part for Utah is at one point, I think there was only 2 starters at the start of the fourth quarter for Memphis in. and they got the lead to like 94-77. So it was like, hey, are they going to maintain this 8 to 10 point lead? They almost doubled it. So there's just so much of this where Utah, you're like, what are you guys doing? You're not going to shoot it that badly. Again, I wouldn't expect. But the first thing you have to figure out is like, I realize Ja is challenging, and he cooked Conley on that missed layup too. That was like, right towards the end. And I didn't feel like Conley was all that impactful, but they've got to figure out a way to fix that a little bit more.
Tillman plays 8 minutes and does nothing today. He's the hero on Friday night. But they get some Bane. Bane was this guy who the Celtics basically gave away in the draft last year. They had the 30th pick. They kind of didn't want to pay a third first rounder. And they're like, cool, take Bane. We'll give us a future second. And I forget what else, but it really was a giveaway. And Bane hit that 3 at the end of the third quarter, I think, and talked more trash after it than anyone on the Celtics has, I think, all year. I was like, it would have been nice to have Bane on our team. At least he would have barked at somebody. But he's good. They have so many guys on this team. Like Clark and Winslow got DNPs again.
They're
so
sneaky
deep.
Yeah, they're sneaky deep. And the great thing about Bane is you went, okay, how often he's going to be allowed to do the stuff that he was doing in college? Because he was running everything. Everything kind of went through him. And then he comes to Memphis and he plays off of everybody. But you even saw there was one possession, I think, in particular, where he did get deep in the paint and like set something up. And it was like, oh, yeah, that's right. That's the guy that's in college that is handling the ball a little bit more. I want to ask you a Brooks question, though, because I forgot it as we were running through Brooks.
Yeah.
Do you think in a weird way the Memphis experience for him has been perfect, though? Because if he had been on a better team, people would have told him to stop doing any of the stuff he was doing. Because if you look at the advanced stuff, this is the best advanced PER he's ever had, and it's still below average. Like his advanced numbers have been pretty bad for 4 years.
Yeah.
He shoots at 34% from 3, which isn't great. But he's physical, and I just wonder if he were on a better team with less of an opportunity, where clearly throughout these years, because of injuries, and Memphis hasn't been great, they've needed him to be more of an alpha for this team, where I think his growth, a lot of it is because he was allowed to kind of be the guy he's been, where with another team, them benching him probably for a lot of stuff that he did with Memphis, where Memphis needed him to be out there through his mistakes. I think another situation, he may have never developed into the guy that has the confidence he has now.
No, I'm not sure they knew he was this guy either, because then why do you do the Justice Winslow trade last year?
Right, because Winslow's a lottery guy, and probably half the fan bases are holding out hope for Justice Winslow,
yeah. But you do that trade because you think, we like Brooks, but I'm not sure this is our starting backcourt for the next 10 years. I'll say this, and we didn't really talk about the Friday night game that much, but he did this on Sunday too. I don't know if it's the best I've ever seen anyone defend Steph, but it's in the conversation. And I'm trying to think, like Drew
Dellavedova. Remember when Dellavedova almost died in the 15 finals?
Right. I forgot about that. I just think Steph's almost impossible to defend, and he did pretty much everything you want to do. Steph was still getting his points, but he really made him work, and he really gave him issues. Caruso does an okay job against Steph, but I thought Brooks was fantastic against him. Steph really worked for every single point he had. And he did all the right things, right? He wasn't talking too much trash, but he was always around him. He was always in his space. He's got hands. There's just
he leads the league in
annoying
fouls.
To play again. Yeah, but I don't think he cares. I think he's just a really physical two guard.
It wasn't even me being negative about it, but because he fouled out of the last regular season game when they lost, I believe.
Can we talk about the hottest topic that's not a playoff topic right now? Canada's 2024 Olympic team.
Wiggins, offense runs through him.
Alexander Walker on the Pelicans. RJ. Chris Boucher.
Never misses a shot.
Brissett on the Pacers.
You're reaching a bit.
Brandon Clark. Apparently Dort counts.
Dort does count. Why would he not count?
SGA. Corey Joseph, veteran. Jamal Murray, Kelly Olynyk, Dwight Powell, Tristan Thompson, Wiggins. That's a real team. And Brandon and our guy Dillon Brooks. That's a real team.
I'm not as excited. I mean, you just named a bunch of guys from Canada, and some are pretty good. But
Canada, where can I bet on them for 2024?
What to do? What?
Olynyk. It's like Olynyk and the Olynykets. I don't know. This Mitchell thing, you want to talk about it? There's all kinds of rumors. I don't know what's true and not true, but all I know is Utah was minus 1,300 to win this series on FanDuel. Memphis was plus 700 underdog to win the series. Everyone thought Mitchell was playing. Everyone thought he was fine. There was no word that he wasn't playing. And then 2 hours before, all of a sudden he's not playing. And he's saying they make it seem like it was the team's decision. The whole thing was weird. I'm sure it's going to blow up tomorrow, or maybe even by the time people hear this podcast, but very strange.
I don't know what happened. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I know there's different. I mean, because of this podcast, I don't want to say like, hey, I don't know. I don't know what happened. People thought he was ready to go, and then he wasn't. But the team's the one that said that they shut it down. And he was out there.
There's competing theories about what may have happened. We'll leave it at that. In the basketball community,
yes,
there's a lot of buzz with different theories. Let's just say it's not as many as the JFK assassination, but there's multiple theories.
No. But I don't know what's right or not. So I mean, you could chalk it up to that. I mean, if you're Utah, you want to sit here and make excuses, be like, well, you find out you're not getting Mitchell a couple. You still should. You've played with Mitchell. You've played without him enough. I still think you're supposed to win this game. You're at home. You're the better basketball team. And really, if you had never told anybody what the records were, you'd be like, wait, they're better than them? Because it didn't look like it. I mean, that's what's kind of the scary thing. Like, I guess you could just say at one point when Utah's 7 of 35 from three, and they made the number look a little bit better because Bogdanovich went crazy in the second half. But Conley didn't look that great offensively. I think they had moments where favors. And, and this is kind of like a bigger Rudy Gobert thing, too. It's like if you really are one of the 15 best players in the league and he's getting MVP votes, I think Hollinger voted him second for his MVP. I just go,
wait, what?
Should I double check that? Because I don't want to get that wrong.
I didn't even feel great about putting him third team All NBA as my third team All NBA center. For the reason you said, I'm like, am I positive this is one of the best 15 players in the league?
It's just in those moments. It's like, you know what? If you're going to be one of these guys, I need you to be one of these guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need you to be somebody who feels like, okay, now we can use Rudy now. We can use Rudy now because Mitchell's out.
Mitchell's out. We'll ride Rudy a little bit more.
We have this top 15 player. And, on top of it, too, you're like, okay, well, you guys understand the defensive impact. We've all seen the numbers. It's been going on for years. We know what the on-off court stuff is. It's insane. It always has been for him. And it was even better again. You know what I mean? After, taking a dip back. But then when you're watching it happen, you're going, all right, so Ja's getting whatever he wants. I mean, we can blame it on foul trouble. We could do all those different things. But it's a fact. There are Rudy Gobert playoff games where you go, wait, I'm supposed to believe he's one of the 15 best players in the league? That doesn't feel like it's accurate.
And Valanciunas is a weird matchup for him, that not necessarily the perfect guy for him to go against. What's weird to me about the Grizzlies thing is Jackson really hasn't looked that good since he came back, and he missed, 2/3 of the season, 3/4 of the season, whatever it was. But they're not even really getting a lot from him yet. And I do feel like the longer they can hang around in the postseason, at some point he's going to heat up. We both think he's good. I just feel he just seems a little rusty to me. And how does he fit in? And the team's in a good groove. But if they can get 24 to 28 really good minutes out of him, this looks better and better. But Dillon Brooks took 26 shots tonight, which I think is hilarious. Did you find out if Hollinger voted Gobert second for MVP? All right, we looked it up. He did have him second. So he had Jokic first, Embiid second. Look, there's a statistical case for it, I guess, but I personally don't see how he's above Embiid or Curry. But this is why it's fun to have votes. It's fun to argue about them. I don't get it. I don't get that one. Memphis, every lower seed won this weekend in the West, except for the Los Angeles Lakers. Did you know that?
Yeah. Portland 6.
Yeah.
I'm able to figure it out. Last year, the 2 1 seeds lost their first games.
So you have a scenario where if Dallas can upset the Clips, and we'll talk about that series in a second, and Memphis can somehow donkey punch the Jazz out of nowhere and pull off.
I'm not quite there yet.
I'm hypothetical. Right. Okay. We could have a Dallas-Memphis round 2. And then if Phoenix holds on to beat the Lakers, again, this is all overreaction Sunday. We could have a Final Four of Phoenix, Portland, Dallas, and Memphis. That would be fucking weird. It's in play. I don't think it'll happen. but it's in play. If Golden State's in that game today, what happens? Because I am of the theory that if Utah isn't hitting threes, anyone can beat them in one game. Like, they're so built around at least shooting 32 to 34% from three. If they just tank from three like that, I think they're extremely vulnerable against any decent team.
They beat Memphis 3 times this year. And if I look through it, I'm sure they're missing like one of their guys, either Conley or Mitchell at some point for one of those games. So I've been on the record throughout all of this run. As much fun as it's been watching a Golden State, get all these role players get going and the defensive numbers to close the season and Steph. But that's just not that great of a basketball team. I was surprised they were that close with the Lakers. But one game, we all knew Steph was capable of anything. That whole game going into the Memphis second play-in game, and at least I have this on the record because Cowherd called me and I go, I think Memphis wins this game. Like, I just have some weird thing where I feel like storyline will just remember, be like, oh, that's right. And Steph ended up not being in the playing game. So I don't want to talk about Steph that much more anyway. But if it's Golden State instead, Utah probably has a better chance. I just don't think that Golden State team was that good. I just don't.
The 7. I love the playing game. I wonder if the 7-8, if it's too dramatic of an impact for the team that loses, if it's a game where it's like basically a game 7 and then you lose and then all of a sudden you have to play the 9-10 and then the 9 seed just has an easier game. The 10 seed is going to be either mediocre or worse. 7-8, you start talking yourself into it. It was weird how in a weird way, Golden State would have been better off finishing 9 and playing San Antonio and easing into the Memphis game versus I think they went, obviously I was there, so I was watching their bench and stuff. They really thought they were going to win that Laker game. That whole team did. They had this game plan. They were trying to execute it. They were all in on it. And I think they really thought they were going to catch the Lakers by surprise, which leads me to, actually, I want to talk about the Lakers. But before you do that, though, let's just stay on this because I do think this is a real results-based conversation. Because then it's like if Memphis got smoked, we'd all be saying, well, the emotional turnaround, right? Because Golden State lost to Memphis because the Lakers game. That's what I was led to believe, right? Not that Golden State's not that good. That game was physical, and they basically played 7 guys and took a lot out of Curry, I think.
All right,
I think that's a fair, there was some residue.
But if we want to connect everything, we always connect things to the results. So if Memphis had gotten smoked tonight, you'd be like, you know what? 2 playing games on the road.
That's what I
traveling. That's the turnaround. It can't happen. Like last year,
they're young team though.
Well, no, you're saying that now, but I know exactly what would happen.
In retrospect, I'm saying it. Young team. But that Friday game bounced off them.
This team has the advantage. I think we all do this stuff based on the results. I'm going to point to 2 games last year. I think Denver had the quick turnaround where they got smoked by LA, right? In the first game of their second round series. And then why was that? Because you're like, oh, Denver just played this ridiculous series with Utah. The quick turnaround. You can't, you know what I mean? Like people were even suggesting, because this happens out there with the minutes freaks, of just punt on game 1. When you're like, well, dude, it's a best of 7. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, hey, punt on game 1. So then what did Houston have? They have that 7-game series with Oklahoma City. They play on a Wednesday. Game 1 against the Lakers is a Friday. Everybody is like your mortgage on the Lakers because Houston, the emotional turnaround, and they win by 15 points. So I think
I lost money on that one.
We get really caught up in the connecting results because of all but now it's like, well, Memphis, they're riding this emotional high. And then Utah was just sitting around. Where if it were the other way around, we'd be like, that's too much to ask of a young Memphis team. So I don't buy a lot of this stuff.
Can I give you a better theory on this Memphis-Utah game tonight? I think the Mitchell thing was a really weird story. And I'm
glad you brought it up.
A major distraction.
Yeah. I think it's
like, wait a second.
This is a real excuse.
Playing. He's not playing? Wait, he's saying the team's telling him not to play? Like, that's not a way to get ready for a playoff series.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought it up again because I think it's important. We'll find out what the hell's going on this week.